Hi, everybody. Must be Wednesday. I don't know why I'm looking at my watch. The day of the week doesn't show up on there. Anyway, it has to be Wednesday because we're filming Wisdom Wednesday. If you've tuned in before over the last 7 years, you know that we've had a lot of fun with this for 7 straight years of bringing you fun, informative, usually pretty solidly science-based information, not only about dentistry, but about just living a healthier life. We also have a theme every month, and I introduced last week, the first episode in September, that the theme this month is called Sign Off in September, because after 7.5 years and me slowly trying to step out of the practice of dentistry, this is the last month. So after today, we'll have 2 more episodes of Wisdom Wednesday, and then we're kind of putting it to rest and we're working on what are we going to do next. But Wisdom Wednesday will at least temporarily kind of be put to sleep. Maybe it'll come back and maybe it won't. We don't know yet. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about color today and how it can be looked at. We're actually looking at a German study that was done and reported in the Journal of Neuroscience. Yep, Journal of Neuroscience just recently. So you may be hearing more about this. I'm sure some of you remember last year around this time the big controversy that was out there on social media where there was a woman's in a dress and it cut off from here down to about the hem of the dress. And some people saw the dress as black with a blue tunic in the middle, and other people, including me, saw it as white and gold. And we passed it around the lunch table back among me and 13 females, all seeing different things. About half of us saw white and gold, and I don't know who saw black and blue, but wasn't me. I clearly saw white and gold. So that's kind of the basis of what we're going to be talking about today. That was a fun little thing. You can still find that on social media if you're interested and you missed out on that whole crazy year or so ago. There have been other ones with a dog laying in a dog bed and people arguing about what colors they were seeing. So that would sort of tell you that people process things differently in their brains and that everybody has their own interpretation of color. But this study I found quite interesting. It sounds like the researchers found it interesting too. It was done in Germany, as I said earlier. That if you've watched any Wisdom Wednesdays, you know I usually like to quote studies that have hundreds, if not thousands, of participants. This study, one of the things I didn't like about it, it only looked at 15 participants. And they're all German, and they didn't identify how many were male or how many were female. They just said 15 participants. But I guess the reason is because after they looked at colors, they did an MRI on their brains to map the activity and where different areas of the brain lit up for certain colors, and we'll get into that in just a few more minutes. But they did the MRI machine that they used was actually pretty commonplace stuff. You've seen that before, where different parts of the brain are activated by different actions. This one was no different from that. But then the twist on it is they took this information from these 15 participants and they fed it into an AI, into an artificial intelligence software, and asked it to predict what colors were being viewed by taking those first 15 participants. So they knew when they looked at red, a certain area of the brain, of the visual cortex, lit up. When they looked at green, a different area, but they all were in the visual cortex of the brain, which is, the cortex is the main part of the brain. And so this linear classifier AI tool took that information and analyzed it, and then they did the opposite. They took another group, a second group of study participants, and they didn't even say in the second one, at least not in the briefing I got, how many were in the second group, which I always, being a dentist for 46 years, I find interesting. How big was the second group? The first one was 15. How many were in the second group? But anyway, they then showed them colors, but the AI program looked at the MRIs of the second group and tried to predict what color they saw. And it actually was very, very accurate. They were able to predict which color was being viewed in almost 100% of the cases, which would tell the researchers and me that the same area of the brain gets activated, whether they call it green or not. They're seeing green, and green is activating that particular part of the brain. So they found different colors were processed subtly differently in the visual cortex, and that the brain responded more strongly to some colors than the others. So it didn't tell us which ones it was. It just threw out a provocative sentence like that, saying the brains reacted to some colors more than others. But I don't have that information for you to tell you exactly what. Anyway, the findings suggest that there are commonalities in the way different brains encode color, which would explain why the dress looked different for some people, because even though we might all be activating the same part of our brain, over our years of learning, we might have just learned to process it differently, but it stimulates the exact same area of the brain no matter what. Blue is blue and red is red. So if you've tuned in before over the last 7 years, you know that I always end with a health tip. We're there already, and so we're going to talk about, this is a actual excerpt from Psychology Today, where a woman looked at different colors, and they took quite a different turn than the study I just talked about. This psychologist looked at different colors and said they strike people in different ways. So I can kind of pick up where I left off with the last one. She says green has been linked to creative thinking, which is why it's a very common choice in households and in offices, because it lends people to be more creative. Red is psychologically tied to attraction. So, and I know I've had dates where the woman wore red, and it kind of gets your attention. Red lipstick with a red dress can have an energy to it, according to this woman who researched this. She said a red surface in view has also been shown to give us a burst of strength, so adding a red accent wall or details in a home gym might improve your workout. Who knew? I couldn't think of any gyms that I've been to that had a red accent wall. Now, blue is a very popular color. What she said about blue is that it's regularly associated with positives, and in her instance it was clean water, calm blue skies. I can buy that. She said most people will say blue is relaxing, and more people choose blue as their favorite color than any of the other colors. So it makes a strong choice for clothing. I've got blue pants on today, light blue, and she said it connotes trustworthiness and calmness. I don't know about that in my own particular world, but I do find blue to be a soothing color, and I like blue pants because they match pretty much anything, any color you put on as a top. So maybe green in my world. I don't like blue and green together, but I see a lot of people wearing that combination. So anyway, that's our Wisdom Wednesday episode for today about color. Next week we'll come back to you with another fun fact-finding deal. So happy Wisdom Wednesday, and I'll see you next week.